Right now, as you're watching this video, somewhere near your home there's an animal walking around with something hidden in its blood that scientists all over the world have been trying to recreate in a lab. It doesn't look like a hero. It has gray fur, a long bare tail, and a face that most people call ugly without ever stopping to ask why. Many people see it at night near the trash cans, and their first instinct is to chase it off or even kill it. But that would be a mistake. Because hidden inside that small, unremarkable body is a real biological weapon, a weapon so powerful that one of the deadliest venoms on the planet simply stops working the moment it enters this animal's blood. Stick around until the end, and you'll understand why the little creature you may have chased off your property more than once could one day be the reason a venomous snakebite doesn't take the life of someone you love. But before we talk about the opossum, we need to talk about the real threat, the one that kills people every day and that we almost never hear about. Venomous snakes bite people far more often than most people think. In the United States alone, several thousand venomous snake bites are recorded every year. And if you look at the whole world, the picture becomes truly frightening. According to the World Health Organization, snake bites kill more than 100,000 people every single year. And that's only the cases that end in death. 3 times that many people are left permanently disabled, losing arms, legs, eyesight, or the ability to walk normally. Think about that. An entire city's worth of people disappears from the face of the earth every year because of a single bite, and almost no one talks about it. Why? Because the victims of this tragedy rarely make world headlines. These aren't celebrities, politicians, or people living in big cities. They're farmers. They're field workers. They're children who were simply playing near their home in some small village most of us don't even know exists. Their stories don't make it onto television. Major news outlets don't write about them. They simply vanish into the statistics, becoming one more nameless number. And now for the most frightening part. The way snake bites are treated has barely changed in over 100 years. Imagine that the technology your great-great-grandparents used is still the main method of saving human lives today. That's exactly the situation with snake antivenom. It's still produced almost the same way it was made back in the late 1800s. How does it work? Scientists inject a small amount of venom into the blood of a horse or a sheep. The animal's body starts producing antibodies to fight the venom. Those antibodies are then extracted, purified, and turned into medicine. Sounds like something out of an old textbook, doesn't it? It is. This method is slow, it's expensive, and most importantly, it only works against the specific species of snake whose venom was used to create it. A single vial of this antivenom can cost a small fortune, and a serious bite may require several vials at once, sometimes as many as 10. For many families in poor rural areas, that means one thing: treatment is simply out of financial reach. People don't die because the medicine doesn't exist. They die because it costs too much and there's nowhere to get it. And here's the most unfair part. In the exact regions where snake bites happen most often, antivenom is hardest to get. It's hard to store. It's hard to transport to remote villages. Hospitals simply can't keep a dozen different types of antivenom in stock for every single species of snake living in the area. This isn't some rare accident that happens once a century. It's a real global health crisis that just never makes the news. Now imagine that somewhere in nature there's already an animal whose blood could solve several of these problems at once. An animal that doesn't need to be specially raised on farms. An animal that already lives right next to you in your own backyard. What does any of this have to do with the little creature hissing at you from under your porch at night? Everything. Scientists studying opossum blood have discovered a special protein inside it, a peptide capable of fully neutralizing the venom of rattlesnakes and many other dangerous reptiles on simple contact. It doesn't weaken it for a while. It doesn't slow it down. It completely stops it from working. Picture a test tube containing one of the deadliest venoms in North America. Now picture that venom coming into contact with the blood of this small, unremarkable creature, and it simply stops being dangerous. That is exactly what happened over and over again in laboratory conditions. Stop and think about that for a second. A creature that many people try to chase off their yard with a stick or a bucket of water is walking around with a built-in defense system against one of the most dangerous venoms on the planet. And this is where things get really interesting. Because there are an enormous number of rumors, scary stories, and outright myths surrounding opossums, people are afraid of them without understanding what they're actually afraid of. People believe stories they've never bothered to check, and the truth, as often happens, turns out to be far more interesting and far more important than any myth. In the next part, we'll go through the most common misconceptions about this animal, one by one. We'll talk about whether the opossum is actually dangerous to humans, whether it deliberately hunts snakes, whether this resistance to venom is even real, or just another internet exaggeration, and what this discovery could actually mean for the future of medicine. Because what you're about to learn might change the way you see this animal forever. In the meantime, think about this. How many times have you seen an opossum in your yard and your first thought was to chase it away? How many times has someone you know said you need to get rid of that disgusting creature? What if, this whole time, this creature wasn't a threat at all, but a quiet carrier of one of the most valuable biological secrets on the planet? What if nature already solved a problem that humanity has been struggling with for more than 100 years, and we simply never bothered to look closer? Stay with me, it only gets more interesting from here. So, we've established the main point. Hidden in the blood of an ordinary opossum is a substance capable of stopping one of the most dangerous venoms on the planet. Now it's time to sort out what you've heard about this animal before, what's true, and what's just a myth that's lived in people's heads for decades. Let's go through these misconceptions one by one. Myth 1. The opossum itself is dangerous and venomous. This is probably the most common misconception. People see sharp teeth, a strange face, hissing, and immediately decide they're looking at a dangerous predator. In reality, it's exactly the opposite. The opossum has no venom and no other natural weapon besides its own teeth, which it almost never uses against a person. It doesn't attack first. Its famous hissing and bared teeth are simply a way to scare off something that seems like a threat, not preparation for an attack. What's more, if an opossum senses real danger, it usually doesn't fight back at all. It simply falls on its side, freezes, and plays dead, hoping the predator will lose interest. You have to admit, that's not exactly the behavior of a dangerous animal. All the fear people feel toward opossums is based on appearance alone, not on any real threat, but on how the animal looks in the dark at the edge of a yard. Myth 2. The opossum deliberately hunts snakes to fight them. Many people picture the opossum as a small, fearless warrior wandering the neighborhood in search of snakes to battle. That's not true either. The opossum isn't a hunter or a fighter. It's an animal that eats almost anything it can find. Insects, fruit, small rodents, other animals' leftovers. It doesn't go looking for danger on purpose. But if it happens that a snake attacks first, defending itself or trying to catch prey, the opossum has something almost no other animal its size has, a body capable of surviving that attack. Scientists believe this resistance to venom developed not as a weapon for attacking, but as a means of survival in places where venomous snakes are especially common. This isn't a story about a brave fighter. It's a story about nature finding a way to protect a seemingly weak creature from one of the most serious threats around. Myth 3. This resistance to venom is just another exaggeration made up by the internet. It's worth pausing here because very often big, flashy facts about nature turn out to be exaggerations or outright lies someone made up for likes. But not in this case. This is a confirmed, tested scientific discovery, not an urban legend. Scientists didn't just assume the opossum has resistance to venom. They isolated a specific substance from its blood, recreated a similar version of it in the lab, and tested it directly against real snake venom. And the result repeated itself again and again. It wasn't a one-time fluke. What's more, researchers went even further. They took venom from several different species of dangerous snakes and tested whether this substance worked against each one. It turned out the effect wasn't limited to a single species of snake. That means this discovery could theoretically become the basis for a medicine that works against many different types of venom at once, not just one. This is one of those rare cases where the real science turned out to be even more interesting than the boldest rumors on the internet. Myth 4. Even if it's true, this discovery is useless. This, perhaps, is the most unfair misconception of all. In reality, this discovery could become one of the most important steps in treating snakebites in recent decades. Remember how ordinary antivenom is made today. A small amount of venom is injected into the blood of a horse or sheep. The animal's body is given time to produce protective substances, and those substances are then extracted and purified. This method is slow, expensive, and, most importantly, only works against the specific species of snake whose venom was used to create the medicine. If a medicine were created based on the substance found in opossum blood, the situation could change completely. Such a medicine could potentially work against several species of venomous snakes at once. It could cost far less to produce. And, especially important for poor, remote regions, it would be easier to store and transport. Instead of keeping a dozen different vials in a hospital for every single species of snake, doctors could use one universal medicine. For regions where surviving a snakebite still often depends on how quickly a person can reach a hospital, this would be a genuine turning point. If this discovery is already changing the way you see opossums, now's a good time to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because every week we cover exactly these kinds of hidden stories from the natural world that usually go untold. And leave a comment. Have you ever had to chase an opossum off your property? Now let's talk about what makes this animal so unusual in the first place. The opossum is the only marsupial that naturally lives in North America. That alone makes its biology completely different from any other animal you'd find in your backyard. Its immune system and blood chemistry developed along a completely different evolutionary branch than dogs, cats, raccoons, or even us. That's exactly why its body contains things that almost nothing else around it has. An opossum's body temperature runs noticeably lower than that of most mammals its size. And that's exactly why it shows remarkable resistance to rabies. The virus simply struggles to reproduce at such a low internal temperature. Now put together the low body temperature and the venom-stopping substance in its blood. Are you starting to understand why scientists keep coming back to study this particular animal again and again? This isn't one lucky coincidence. It's an entire biology built around surviving in places where almost any other creature would die. There's one more detail about the opossum's life that almost never gets mentioned alongside the venom story, even though it's just as important. Baby opossums are born incredibly early, sometimes just 13 days after conception, about the size of a small bean, blind and almost completely unformed. After that, they spend several weeks developing inside their mother's pouch, attached to a nipple, in an environment that has to protect an almost embryonic creature from the entire outside world, using nothing but the mother's own body. An immune system and blood chemistry capable of protecting such a fragile creature for that long may well be part of the reason this species developed such a powerful set of biological defenses overall. Survival for the opossum was never built on strength or speed. It was built on a body designed to withstand things that would kill almost any other creature on first contact. And here's a detail almost nobody talks about. Scientists believe this protective substance in opossum blood may work against more than just snake venom. There's reason to believe it may also protect the body from other dangerous substances of a similar kind. In other words, the same protein may have a much broader protective function than originally assumed. Research is still ongoing, but early results hint that this could be one of the most versatile natural antivenoms ever discovered in a mammal. And all this time, it's been quietly living right in your backyard, going completely unnoticed. Next, we'll talk about how many years the opossum has already existed on this planet, what it's lived through over its history, and why every time someone chases off or kills this animal simply because of how it looks, science loses another chance to solve one of the most important puzzles in modern medicine. We've already covered what's hidden in opossum blood and why this discovery could one day save countless human lives. But to truly understand how remarkable this animal is, you have to look at its history as a whole. And believe me, that history is far bigger than it first appears. The opossum has existed on this planet for more than 70 million years. Stop for a second and picture that span of time. The opossum was around when dinosaurs still walked the Earth. It survived the very asteroid that wiped gigantic reptiles off the face of the planet after they had ruled it for millions of years. While the dinosaurs disappeared forever, this small, unremarkable creature somehow kept surviving. And there's more. The opossum survived several ice ages. It survived mass extinctions that wiped out thousands of other forms of life. It watched predators far bigger and faster than itself rise and fall. And somewhere across those 70 million years of quiet, unnoticed survival, nature gave this small, plain-looking animal a defense mechanism so advanced that modern scientists are still trying to fully understand it, let alone recreate it precisely. Think about that the next time you see an opossum clumsily waddling across your yard late at night. It's not an annoying pest digging through the trash can. It's a genuine living laboratory, carrying in its blood one of the most promising keys to creating a universal antivenom. And that laboratory is quietly existing in the very place you might have been about to chase it away from. And now, here's something truly worth thinking about seriously. Every opossum that gets chased off, trapped, or killed simply because people find it unpleasant to look at is one more lost chance for science. One more missed opportunity to understand exactly how this substance works and how to safely reproduce it on a large scale for real-world medicine. The very animal that thousands of people consider disposable and unnecessary every single night may very well be holding the answer to a question medicine has been struggling with for more than 100 years. And here, it's worth asking yourself a far more important question than simply, does this opossum belong in my yard? The question is really this: how many other creatures around you are people chasing off or destroying just because no one ever bothered to find out what they actually are? How many times has someone grabbed a stick, a bucket of water, or something worse, simply because an animal looked strange or frightening, without ever stopping to think that what stood before them might not be a threat, but something far more valuable? We're used to sorting animals into beautiful and scary, useful and harmful, usually based only on a first impression. The opossum is a perfect example of where that kind of haste leads. An appearance that many find off-putting hides one of the most remarkable biological discoveries of recent decades. So the next time you see an opossum in your yard late at night, just leave it alone. Its blood may one day genuinely help save someone's life, perhaps the life of a person you'll never even know about. Somewhere far away, in a small village, a person bitten by a venomous snake will get a chance to survive thanks to medicine built on a discovery made possible by this small, unremarkable creature. And if this story changed even a little the way you look at things that used to seem simple and obvious, subscribe to the channel. That's exactly what we cover every week. Hidden stories from nature that pass most people by every day, going completely unnoticed. And leave a comment right now. What other animal do you think people unfairly underestimate? Maybe you know a similar story. Maybe there's a creature living in your own yard that you've never really looked at closely. Tell us about it. I read every single comment. In the meantime, remember this story. Next time, before reaching for a shovel or a broom to chase off something unfamiliar and strange-looking, stop for a second and ask yourself, what if this creature has been a protector this whole time, not a threat, and you simply never knew?